So we've been asked to write the equation of this trigonometric function. And when you look at this, the first thing you want to notice is your x-axis is all the way up here. So this is obviously below the x-axis. So I know it's been shifted down. Now, to find the equation of any trig function, you've got to find four things. You've got to find the amplitude. You've got to find the horizontal shift. You've got to find the vertical shift. And then you've got to find the period, which will give you the period modifier that would go in your equation. Now, the first thing I always like to find is the amplitude. And I always like to pick if this is a sine or a cosine function. So I look and I say, okay, well, the maximum occurs right here at -3. And the minimum occurs 2 steps down at -5. Okay, so the max is -3 and the min is -5. And the difference between -3 and -5 is 2. So the graph has a height of 2. The amplitude is always half of the height. So if the height equals 2, divide that by 2, and A, the amplitude, equals 1. So we know A equals 1. Now the next thing I need to do is choose if this is going to be a sine or a cosine graph. And I said, well, here's the maximum and here's the minimum. Now, if I'm going to choose sine or cosine, I can pick either and get an answer, but the easiest thing to do here would be to choose cosine. And the reason for that is because this graph starts at its maximum, and cosine always starts at the maximum. So I'm going to go ahead and start writing my equation. I'm going to write y equals, and you can go ahead and put a 1 if you want to. Some people do, some people don't. I'm going to put a 1 there to let me know that I've already found my amplitude. So the amplitude is 1. All right, so cosine. Now, what do I know about my horizontal shift? Well, if I choose cosine, this starts at the maximum. So the horizontal shift would be 0. Okay, so that helps me a lot. How about vertical shift? Well, if the amplitude is 1, this should start at 1. It is starting at -3. How far is -3 from +1? It's down 4. So I know this has been shifted down 4. Okay? So the last thing I need to find is B, my period. And I say, okay, well, where does cosine start? It starts at the maximum. It goes down to the minimum and goes back up to the maximum. Well, I don't see another maximum. So what this tells me is I see a maximum down to a minimum. What that means to me is I can only see half of a period. And if you look closely, you see here this is 4 pi. So from 0 to 4 pi is half of a cycle. That tells me that it takes 8 pi to complete an entire cycle. So the period is 8 pi. And remember, the period is always equal to what? 2 pi over b. Well, 2 pi over b has to equal 8 pi. Solve this equation here for b. Solve that equation for b. And if you solve that for b, you're going to get b equals 1/4, because 2 divided by 1/4 is 8. Okay? So b equals 1/4. So now I can write my equation. A cosine b x minus c. Well, I don't have a c, so I'm going to just have 1/4 x. And then it's shifted down 4, so that's going to be what here? -4. So that would be the equation that would give you this graph. And if you want to check this, you could set your window from 0 to -6 in the y direction, and from 0 to 4 pi in the x direction. Type this equation into y1 in your y equals screen and press graph. And do you get the same picture that you see here? This is a good way to check this. If you have any questions, please come see me.